Welcome to a new video. Today I want to talk to you about what is something artists, not just artists, but animation schools and anyone who is doing content in animation space often forgets when it comes to promoting either their products, services, passion projects, or any of the above. And that is, of course, that people come to social media not to be taught, but to be entertained. So a friend of mine who has an animation school reached out to me and she asked me how can she increase the engagement on her videos in order to drive more sales to her animation schools and have more animation students. And I immediately saw where her problem lies. She was trying to teach people on social media. And that is simply not the format or not a place to do so. First, you need to entertain someone because you need to take into account where do people consume your content. And unfortunately, that is a lot of time while sitting on a toilet seat or in the bus transportation or just walking down the street. So their attention is super scattered and they can only offer you a small glimpse of their time and energy to see your content. And you need to be super clear and entertaining before they basically bounce. So in her content, she was basically trying to teach a super complex Maya knowledge, super complex rigging knowledge, something that would usually be more suited either for a long format where someone is more committed to watch it, or behind a paywall in an actual course. But teaching those super niche Maya tips, rigging tips, constraints, locators, baking, blocking, spline, animation workflows, all of that vocabulary is super niche. And only a small portion of animation industry is familiar with it, and that is animators. Before aiming for virality, you need to understand what is total addressable market or how many people exist that are actually familiar with the topic. So more people are going to be familiar with, I don't know, fitness and food than animation constraints. So naturally, a food or a fitness video might reach 1 million, 5 or 10 million views, but the constraints video might only reach, I don't know, 10,000 or 100,000 videos if you know some basic storytelling. Which most of the people who are running animation schools or animation communities are not familiar with, and it's perfectly valid. So that's why I'm here for, to share some of the knowledge that I gained from promoting my short film and gaining multiple viral videos, and to kind of share what is something I noticed, how can you wrap those niche topics and niche values you want to offer to your community and to your students, but you don't want to bore them and have them bouncing right away when they see your video. So how I solve this problem is basically wrapping the whatever niche tip I wanted to share with animators in a story or giving some context to it. So for example, in this video where I share about the super niche Animbot tip, I gave context where did I use that tip? How is that relevant in my animation career? And for me, that was relevant in the Peter Pan project that I was a part while working from Framestore. And I basically told a story started from a very broad topic like Disney and Peter Pan, and then niched down to my Animbot Maya tip. Because that did two things, gave a context or a meaning to that tip, to that niche value you want to provide. And at the beginning, the second point or takeaway is that it attracted a really broad audience at first, and then it niched down to only a small amount of people who I wanted to use this tip. And of course, that video got 1 million views, and it was a super successful strategy, which I replicate often in my other videos as well. So you have to understand that any technical tip, especially technical tips, they're very hard to have any meaning or resonant with the general audience. So you have to basically assign or attach a meaning to them. So for example, if I am constraining, I don't know, two locators to figure out a complex system in order to I don't know, have this prop drive my IK hands and all this. What does it mean? Where do you use it? Are you using it in a popular game or a popular movie? Or are you using it in some relatable situations that people can find themselves in everyday life? So that can trigger the familiarity and relatability. So you're always trying to attach something that is known and familiar to your viewer to something that is unknown. And those are the best type of videos to showcase your credibility as an animation mentor and attract a wider audience, because wider audience will not care about this random niche tip, and your niche audience won't see your niche tip unless you wrap it in a wider topic. And it's exactly the same thing I did in this video, where this video got 3 million views, where I basically again shared the same technical knowledge I figured out when animating a horse for my short film. But I didn't want to just say, hey, this is how you animate a horse, because that will only attract a small number of people and it would have got maybe like 10,000 views tops. But by actually starting from a personal journey and saying, hey, I tried to study horses by going and studying, watching them live, how they run. And that was even more entertaining for the audience, because it's one thing to actually reference a popular movie or a popular game, but what really triggers the audience is when you are personally involved into that. So in both of these examples, not only that I was starting broad, but I was in those stories. I was actually raising the stakes for the viewer, because when you're personally involved, you're almost like a hero character in a game, almost like a Super Mario, and the viewer is the player who is playing you and is trying to figure out how is the game gonna end. Are you gonna survive that level or are you gonna die? However, this is only one type of content that you need to have if you're marketing your animation school or any type of membership community or product within the animation space. One will be the super broad content that will be aimed at bringing new viewers or new clients, but another type of content needs to be super niche for the people who are thinking of buying your product or services, and they need to see your credibility. They need to see if they can trust you, because it's one thing to make viral, entertaining videos, but it's a whole nother thing whether they trust you to deliver the result you are promising them. Are you going to be worth their money? So you're not just selling your product, you're also selling yourself. So they need to feel and see what is it going to be like working with you. So you're selling yourself, your whole vibe as a mentor, as someone who is going to spend with them next month. Are they going to be comfortable with you giving them notes? Are they going to be threatened or scared, or can they actually tell you stuff? Can you be honest with them? So there's a whole bunch of things that goes into consideration when people are deciding whether to buy a product or not. And if you'll notice, I'm doing the same type of thing with my own content strategy. My Instagram is mostly for attracting the new viewers and playing with short format content and experimenting with all kinds of storytelling patterns and teaching that later to my clients. But then my long format content is actually where a raw, unedited format, except for a couple of pauses in my speech on brain farts. But basically, I'm allowing the audience to see me and to feel me out and to trust me in order to guide them to make their content perform better. So this is how I would think about approaching new clients or new audience for your content if you have an animation school. And I just have to say, while I was doing those short form videos where I started with broad topics and personal stories and ended up with very valuable Maya tips, that was the time when I had the most questions and asks about my own animation mentorship program. There were so many inquiries that I ended up opening a waiting list for people to sign up and basically wait for when the mentorship is going to be open. Of course, I deviated slightly from that plan and I opened a program that's tailored mostly for animation for social media. So it's still animation, but it's again catered to social media storytelling and building an IP online and promoting your short passion projects online. So the program has shifted, but I still have those email lists that I can use later on when maybe, I don't know, I decide to run ads or something like that. But the point is to kind of see what content strategy brings you the most inquiries and what is the product that people are the most interested in. That's it for this video. Hope this was useful. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram or on LinkedIn, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.